Let me paint you a picture. So you're standing in this gorgeous, brightly lit art gallery. Everything is fancy. The lighting is perfect. The critics are there. The collectors are there. And everybody who is anybody is standing around and they are staring at this magnificent artwork, this beautiful painting that's on the wall. And people are literally weeping at how beautiful it is, and you're over in the corner sweating bullets because you know something that nobody else knows. You painted that thing last week with a cheap paint by numbers kit, and you just waiting and anticipating for the curator to tap you on the shoulder and call security and throw you out into the street. That feeling right there, that cold terror of being exposed as a total fraud, that's what we're talking about today. And if you've been sitting on your coaching calling because you feel like that you're not qualified, you're definitely not qualified to charge anything for it, then this episode was made specifically for you. Hey, beautiful. Welcome to the Launch Your Coaching Ministry podcast. I am Monique Addison-Stinson. And listen, here's the truth. Corporate may have given you a title, but God gave you a calling. If you're a Christian woman over 40 who's ready to stop tying your worth to your job and step into your God-given ministry, then this is your space. I show you how to package your corporate skills into kingdom work and get paid for it. Listen, my mom taught me something very powerful. If I don't bet on myself, who will? Now I help women just like you stop making excuses and start making moves, turning your experience into the coaching ministry God's been preparing you for this whole time. So, are you ready to launch? Let's go, sis. Okay, so here's where I want to start today because most people get this wrong, including me when I first started. What you're feeling when you think, who am I to charge for this? Or I'm not ready yet. Or I need one more certification before I put myself out there. That feeling has a name, but it's not the name. It's not the name that you've probably heard. Most people call it imposter syndrome. But the psychologists who actually discovered this way back in 1978, Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes, they didn't call it a syndrome at all. They called it the imposter phenomenon, and that distinction matters more than you think. A syndrome sounds like a disease, right? It sounds like something is wrong with you. Something is broken that needs a clinical cure. But a phenomenon just means it's a real, documented, shared experience. So it's not a diagnosis. It's not a character flaw. It's not God telling you to stay small. It's what happens to high achievers when they step into something new. And here's the part that should make you feel better and push you forward at the same time. This thing doesn't strike randomly. It doesn't show up on a regular Tuesday when everything is fine. Research shows it hits hardest during transition. So that means when the rules of the game change, when you go from one identity to another, which means if you've been feeling like a fraud lately, it might actually be a sign that you're actually in the middle of becoming the very thing that God wanted you to be or becoming something new. It's not proof that you shouldn't be, it's just proof that you're becoming something new. You're in transition. Let me give you the best analogy that I've ever heard for what this actually feels like. And it's going to sound really nerdy. Okay, hang with me. You know how a hermit crab works, right? It lives in a shell, but it outgrows that shell. So it has to leave that old one, and then it needs to find a bigger one. But here's the thing that nobody talks about. In between the shells, right? So that crab is scurrying across open ground or open sand, completely exposed, completely vulnerable, terrified that something is going to swoop down and eat it, right? And even when it finally slides into this new, bigger shell, for a very long time, it doesn't feel right. It feels too big. It feels heavy. It doesn't really belong in this new shell. That is exactly what it feels like to leave corporate and then step into your coaching calling or this new business. You left your old shell. You had the title, you had the salary, you had the organization chart that told you exactly who you were, what you stood for, what your job duties were. You knew the rules, you knew what success looked like. And now you're in this new identity. You're a coach, you're an expert, you're a business owner, but your nervous system is still convinced that you're scurrying around across open sand, waiting to be caught or afraid that you're going to be attacked. And here's what I need you to hear. That feeling is not a warning, it's a transition symptom. And the women who make it to the other side aren't the ones who waited until the new shell felt comfortable before they got in it. They're the ones who got in the new shell anyway, and they let their brain just catch up. Okay, so let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain, because this is where it gets really interesting. And honestly, this science changed how I think about building a business. So there's a concept in psychology. It's called self-perception theory, and it was developed by a researcher named Daryl Bem. And the premise is wild when you first hear it, okay? I thought it was wild. I'm a nerd. I know. I get it. So we don't always know who we are from the inside out. When our internal cues are weak or vague, which is exactly how you feel when you're doing something new, right? Our brains actually figure out who we are by watching what we do. Wild, right? Wild. So I'm going to say that again because it was weird to me. Your brain watches your behavior, and then it draws conclusions about your identity from that. After I heard this, I immediately thought about all of the scriptures about renewing our mind. So I also found another study where researchers put electrodes on people's faces and secretly forced their muscles into either a smile or a frown. Now, those people whose faces were forced into smile reported feeling genuinely happier. And they rated cartoons as funnier. Why? Because their brain watched their smiling face and concluded, well, I must be happy. So your brain is doing the same thing to you right this minute. So every time you say, I'm not ready yet, and you don't take action, your brain watches that and files it as evidence. Evidence that you're not a coach. Evidence that, okay, you're not qualified. Evidence that, yeah, you should wait. But here's how you flip that. And this is where your power is, okay? Every time you do take action, even if you're thinking that if you actually take action, your brain watches that too, and it updates accordingly. And there's a study on voter turnout that proved this. So researchers found that when they sent reminders asking people to be a voter instead of go vote, actual turnout increased by 11% just by changing a verb to a noun. So just by shifting the identity claim, change the behavior. So here's the question. Are you calling yourself a coach, or are you still describing it like something you're thinking about doing someday? Because your brain is listening And it's building your identity from whatever evidence you're giving it. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, Monique, this is just some fancy version of fake it till you make it. Not exactly. And let me explain. Faking confidence to step into a room, for instance, that you actually belong in, that can work. Your brain watches you walk in confidently and it starts building evidence that you actually do belong there. But faking expertise you genuinely don't have, that's really different. That's where people get into a lot of trouble. And honestly, for the women that I work with, that's not even their real issue. You're not faking expertise. You have the expertise. You just don't believe it counts in your new identity or in this new shell. So there's a concept called it's called overjustification effect. So that's worth knowing about because researchers took kids who genuinely loved drawing. They just drew because they loved it and it's just for the pure joy of it. And they started giving them these gold star certificates every time they drew something. And then they stopped giving them the certificates. And so the kids stopped drawing. Why? Because their brain had watched them draw for a reward for so long that it concluded, I guess I only do this for the certificate, not because I love it. And the facade can kill the passion. So I'm not telling you to fake being a coach. I'm telling you to start being one because you already have the experience. There's a difference because your brain is watching and it needs real evidence. It doesn't need you to perform or pretend to be one. I need you to understand that you are one and you have what it takes. So if we know the brain builds identity from evidence and we know faking expertise backfires, what do we actually do? So there are 3 things that you can do, and they're a lot simpler than you think. First is to stop trying to leapfrog the process. So there's a tool that a lot of coaches use called the thought ladder. And here's how it works. So your brain right now is at the bottom of the rung saying, I got lucky, or I'm not qualified, or someone's going to find out. And you can't just jump from that belief to the top rung and say, I'm an incredible coach and everyone needs me. Your brain will reject that as a lie because it has no evidence of that yet. But what you can find is that middle rung, something like, I still have a lot to learn, right? But I do have 20 years of experience that women are struggling with right now. Like I have experience in the thing they're struggling with, and I can help them. That's very believable. That's a rung that your brain can stand on. And once it becomes your baseline, you reach the next one, or you start reaching for the next one. The second thing you could do is to give your brain undeniable physical evidence. So research on new entrepreneurs found that doing something as simple as opening a business bank account shifted their brain's perception of their own identity because now you're opening a business bank account, so I must be a business owner, right? That's not very complicated at all because it was real. It was physical proof that this thing exists. What's your version? Okay, what's your version of opening a business bank account? Maybe it's recording your first podcast, right? Maybe it's officially claiming your niche out loud and announcing it on social media or with your friends for the first time. Maybe it's taking a quiz that tells you exactly what type of coach you're wired to be because you know you're supposed to coach, but you don't know what kind of coach. Whatever it is, let your brain see it so it can give it some evidence. And then the third is to stop going through this alone. Research on medical students experiencing the imposter phenomenon found that group settings had the most sustainable long-term a long-term effect on actually reducing imposter phenomenon. Not the workshops, not reading, not even watching videos, but sitting in a room with other high achieving people and hearing them say the same thing that you've been afraid to admit out loud. Because listen, isolation is the fuel that keeps the imposter phenomenon burning. And as long as you're alone with those thoughts, you assume that you're the only one dealing with this and the only one feeling that way. And you're not. Every woman who has built a business has actually stood in the art gallery sweating too. The only difference between her and you is she stayed in the room anyway, and she didn't run away. So here's where I want this video to land, is that you're not a fraud, you're a hermit crab, because you're a hermit crab between shells. And the discomfort that you feel right now isn't a sign that you should go back or you should stop. It's a sign that you're actually in the middle of becoming. The brain just needs evidence. And the fastest way to give it that evidence is to start moving. Not perfectly, not with all your questions answered. Just start moving. So here's what I want you to do right now. If you've been sitting on your coaching calling and you're not sure what kind of coach, you've heard of all these different coaches out there, and you're not sure what kind that you're supposed to actually be, and that's what's stopping you, I have a free quiz that's going to tell you exactly that. It's called What Type of Faith-Based Coach Are You Secretly Meant to Be? And it takes about 2 to 3 minutes, and it's going to show you your specific coaching gifts. It'll show you why your corporate background was building your coaching curriculum this whole time, and who your dream clients are. The women who are literally paying for someone exactly like you to show up. They're just waiting on you to show up. So the link will be in the show notes if you're listening, and in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. So once you're done listening and watching, I want you to go and take that quiz and then come back here and let me know what type of coach you are wired to be. Let that be your version of opening your business bank account. Let your brain see you do it. Give it evidence, because you didn't land on this podcast or this video by accident. You're exactly who I created this for at this appointed time. All right, beautiful. That's a wrap on today's episode. If you're sitting there thinking, okay, all right, I am so ready to stop talking about this and actually do something about it, then here's what I need you to do right now. Head on over to businesschurchlife.com. That's businesschurchlife, all one word.com. And that's where you'll find everything you'll need to turn that corporate experience into the coaching ministry that you've been called to build. Now, whether you're just getting started or you're ready to dive deep, I've got resources waiting for you that'll help you stop spinning your wheels and start making some real progress. And hey, if this episode hit you right in the feels, do me a favor, leave me a quick rating and a review, then share it with another woman who needs to hear this message. Those reviews help more women find us, and we're building a movement here that starts with women just like you who are brave enough to bet on themselves. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Until then, stop making excuses and start making moves.